sweet in the morning. Oh Lord, it's sweet in the morning. This is an interview with Mrs. Charlotte Billups Jernigan for the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute's Oral History Project. I'm Dr. Horace Huntley. We're at Miles College, June 14, 1995. Thank you, Ms. Jernigan, for coming out and sitting with us today to share your story of the Civil Rights Movement with us.
I'm very glad to be here.
Let me just start by asking some general questions about your background, about your family. Where were your mother and father from?
Okay, my mother her name is Al Marie Stevens, and she's from Arundel, Alabama.
Arundel.
Yes, she was born and raised there, and that's just a little bit about out of a suburb of Birmingham. Okay, my father was born in Birmingham.
Okay.
Okay. And
all right. Then were you born in Birmingham?
I was born in Birmingham also.
Okay. How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have three sisters. I have two sisters, Alicia Francine and Helene Renee.
Okay. Where are you in that hierarchy?
I am the oldest.
You're the oldest?
Yes.
Okay. So you're the one that had to take care of the rest of them.
Yes, I did.
Tell me about your parents' education. How much education did they have?
Okay, my mom went to Arundel Junior High School, and then from there she did a little bit of studying, and then she went on to LPN school when her and my father married at the age of 35. And she worked as LPN and, retired as an LPN. Daddy was a graduate of Booker T. Washington Business College.
Did he go to Parker?
No, Daddy went to school in Gary, Indiana. I'm not sure the name of it now, but he graduated from high school there.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Who was he living with there?
His uncle and aunt.
Okay.
Okay, he only went there for the high school portion. I think he attended the regular public schools here in Birmingham.
I see. Tell me about your education. Tell me about where did you start elementary school? Okay,
first I started, which was here in Birmingham, North Patterson, which changed to be Henry C. Bryant Elementary. Then from Henry C. Bryant Elementary, I went to Hayes High School. From Hayes High School, I went to Cleveland to Cahaga Community College. And after Cahaga, my family went to Chicago, and I went to a community college there, which was YMCA. I also have attended Lincoln University and Jefferson City, Missouri.
Okay.
And the Conservatory of Music in Chicago.
So you're a musician?
Yes, I love to sing. Great. And after military life, I came back loving to do something. I went on to Booker T. Washington Business College, and I got into data processing. Okay,
so that's your occupation?
No, not exactly. At the time, I was wanting to study something else, and I worked in it a little while before breaking down with my illness.
Right. What community were you reared in?
In the Woodlawn community, which is on what I would say the north side of town.
Sort of east
side, yes, okay, by the airport. I was raised up by the Birmingham airport. There was a nice black community there, and that's why they were saying Woodlawn, Groveland area.
Okay. How would you describe your community?
It was all black neighborhood, completely black, and you knew each other. You went over each other's house. You played what we call like in a circle, which our house faced everybody. And you played and you talked with each other. You went to school together. You caught the bus together. It was completely black community.
What kind of occupations did people have that lived in your community?
Most of the people some of the women were like housewives. And most of the men were like blue-collar workers, except for my dad and a couple of others. Daddy was the type that he might have a little bit of blue-collar, but he went on to try to pursue himself to further jobs, like in insurance, and he was in the ministry. Right. And also he worked with the movement. Okay. The Birmingham Christian movement.
What was your father's name?
Reverend Charles Billups.
Reverend Charles Billups. So he was very, very active in the movement.
Very active in the movement.
Yes. Tell me a little, what do you remember about your high school days at Hayes High School?
My high school days were quite different from a normal high school person. I had to travel with my father wherever they went, like to the rallies or whatever. So it was like high school there for school, back home in the car, going to him with rallies or whatever, and when they were planning to have those meetings and planning what they were going to do about boycotting or whatever.
Okay. Let's just sort of bag just a bit.
Okay.
Talk a little bit about your father, because you're referring to your father and you're going to the rallies and going to the meetings. We know that Reverend Billups was very, very active in the movement. He was really just as active as almost anyone else in the city. As a person being so active and you being his daughter, tell me, what impact did it have on you to have to be involved? Because you really didn't have a choice, it appears.
I didn't have a choice. We were his children. There were a lot of things happening. Bomb threats, constant ugly telephone threats, riding up to the house saying things or throwing things on the porch, you know, and that made us have to be involved with him as if we were in it and working it too.
Do you ever remember a time in your life when your father was not involved in the movement?
I do not remember a time that he was not involved. This was an everyday, 7-day-a-week process. Getting in the car with him when we had to. He could not leave us at home. His thing was not to leave us at home. Okay. So that blew an impact on me, like to really learn how to be like an overseer, grow up fast. Yeah. It was, my childhood was like, I wouldn't say shattered, but just I was pushed to learn how to be mature.
And you're being the oldest, then you had to sort of oversee the rest of the children.
Right, make decisions that I didn't think I was going to be able to make.
Okay, how did that impact upon you in your life as a high school student then?
As a high school student, I became very quiet. I was a little bit angry, disgusted sometimes, and then sometimes I was happy because I missed out on a lot of things, and I would come in and try to tell the students about certain things, and I didn't know how to tell them. In high school, a lot of the teachers there were trying to avoid being in the movement, so they would start doing little ugly things like saying, you know, like, wow, your dad is going to get us in trouble, and we're not going to be getting out there, little things like that. Then there are a lot of them that went along with him, and they were very protective of me, you know. A lot of them tried to understand and help me through that high school period of time with my subjects.
There were times then when you had assignments.
Right.
And there were many times when you probably
I could not
had
get
difficulty in completing those.
I can tell you one story. I had a biology teacher, and she gave me a D because what I did, I went back. I knew that I did not do the exact projects, but I did study. So I did me a couple of collections and an experiment of my own. And she said, that's just not good enough. But I was trying to tell her I did that because we used to have to go and sit with Daddy at the Gaston Motel and wait for them to go in and out of those meetings. And that was like 10 o'clock at night when he would take my mom to work. We'd get back home at 6. You know, and at that, we were trying to get homework and a car under a street light, well, the motel light. And I could not prepare things or study like I wanted to. But I did do it good on that project, but she just didn't want to accept that.
Can you give me a description of the typical day in your life as a child during the period, the height of the movement, with your father being so active? So what would you do in the morning, and you know, how would that impact upon what the rest of you, what time would you leave home in the morning? What time would you get back? Okay,
there were specials. Remember, at that time, special buses that would come to community to take you to high school. So we get up like 6, 7 in the morning, catch that special, and get on it. Okay, that's a full day at school. Daddy will probably come out there and tell the kids, you know, we're going to go on these marches or whatever, and they might come get kids. School might be out at 12, or it'll be a regular day, but when we got home like 3, 3:30 or whatever, our time started. We had to start getting our lesson, prepare ourselves, because we knew we had to leave with Daddy that night. So you missed out on a lot of things.
So you would simply anticipate practically every night going with your father.
With my father, yes.
And you were going to the mass meetings?
To the mass meetings, okay. And to sit in the car while they were upstairs at the motel planning those meetings.
Who are you referring to when you say they?
It was my daddy, Martin Luther King, Reverend Shuttlesworth, Reverend Vivian, Andy Young, Reverend Smith, and other community people that got themselves involved, which just involved deacons, people that had these blue-collar jobs that wanted to work with the movement. Reverend Abernathy, Reverend, I did say Reverend Shuttlesworth, Reverend Gardner, okay? Because some of the meetings were even held at his church sometimes.
Right. Now, when you attended the mass meetings, I've gotten different kinds of descriptions about what they were like. As a teenager, how would you describe the typical mass meeting? Well,
since I'm a music type person and I'm creative, they were very exciting, exhilarating, moving. But I was frightened because these people were dogmatic about what they were going to do. I knew they were dogmatic because, like I said, we saw them in the motel planning, and they'd come out and take those breaks, and they'd be talking about what they were going to do. And when they were there, the choir get to singing, and people was actually shouting, say, yes, we are. Yeah, this is women and men. And they were involved. So, yes, I was very exhilarated about the rallies, but at the same time, I was kind of tired, kind of angry, because I knew I had to come up a little bit of that high because I was thinking about my own work, because I was very young. And then the other part, I was always made to sit by some more children, if their parents were there, and my own sisters and my cousins, and we stay in line. We'd stay on the bench. The other thing about the rally, after everything was over and all the people were gone, we were still there. So maybe 1 and 2, maybe 3 in the morning.
Why were you still there?
Because the men that were involved decided to keep on talking about what they were going to do and making plans, and they would stay sometimes in maybe Reverend Smith's office too, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, or either at 16th Street just talking on the steps, and we're still sitting in the car, or we're sitting on the steps, we're sitting on the sidewalk, we're doing everything.
Did you understand this? Were you understanding
at the time,
of
yeah, a little bit, because there were one time when that was going on, sometimes they would come up and talk to us and say, how you all doing tonight? And, kind of explain to us what was going on. And Daddy, we had morning meetings, and Daddy would sit us down and say, you know what, I don't know how far this is going, but one day
family meetings?
Yeah, with my father, and he would tell us that this might be history. This is for your benefit. We're moving on. I will not have a child of mine coming up like me, and that's why your dad is out there.
Tell me about your mother.
My mother was a very quiet person, but very intelligent. She stood by my daddy real good. She helped him write out things, corrected him, and say, she would always say, Charles, you don't say it like that. You do it like this. And she'd help him with certain things. But at the same time, my mother kind of had a hard time because she was about one of the only wives that really worked as far as a comedic regular job.
She was not just a housewife.
That's right. She became a nurse at University of Alabama, which then was Hillman Hospital. And every time something would happen with the movement, all right, nigger Billups, I know you ain't going out there with your nigger husband. And they would give her pink slips, the works. She was working with intensive care babies. They may give her the worst ones. And you're going to stay here till your job is done. I don't care if you hear anything about your husband, you will not leave. The night that the young ladies got bombed from 16th Street, they had people, and they were down identifying everything. The first thing that came, my mom, they found her, all right, Nurse Billups, I dare you to go downstairs, or you're going to get fired. I know your nigger husband is down there. She said this is how she was talked to from the head nurse.
You said she called her Nurse Billups.
Nurse Billups and nigger. Mm-hmm. They did use those words quite frequently and with her.
And for the white nurses, they always call them Miss or Mrs.
They always call her nurse.
Yeah, I mean for white nurses.
Oh yeah, they had to call them by their names. Right. Yeah, Mrs. So-and-so or whatever, or Doctor whoever.
Your mother, did she normally work night shift?
She normally worked night shift. She was working the 11 to 7 shift. Mm-hmm. So that meant she had to be there like about 10:30. So that's when we would leave out at 10:30. She wanted to be there at 10:30 to get there about 30 minutes before time. She was a very prompt person. Yes. Knew her job well.
So then as you are then attending the mass meetings, She basically...
She was at work.
Was at work or preparing to go to work.
That's right. And she would tell my father, all right, I know you're just taking them with you to go to work with me, but you're going to take them back home. He said yes, but he knew he was going to detour and take us on to a mass meeting, or we were going to Smith and Gaston, motel.
But tell me about that experience. You would, after the meetings, and then there would be a meeting after the meeting by the leaders of
right.
Your father being one of those.
Right.
Other children who had actually participated in the mass meeting, they were now able to go home.
They went home. Yes.
And you were still...
We were still there.
Out waiting.
Yes.
Did you ever have the experience of just talking with Dr. King?
Ooh, yes, that's what's so memorable. And now that I'm 45 years old and I look back at that and I said, well, we were just treating like ordinary people and holding conversation because you're youth. And you're going to give people respect. We already thought they were something, like really tops, but not in the manner that I thought history was being made and all of this other stuff was going to come about and books would be written and everything. But we had a chance to sit down at the table with him and others and eat snacks. And one time we was there like during our lunchtime. We went one Saturday, but this was like an every night thing. And they would even bring because at the motel you could smell the food just cooking, the fish and the pies and all like that. And they would tell them to bring stuff out to us. And then in return, sometimes they tell us come in there and eat with them. So we got a chance to sit down, which I call a feasting table, and eat with these people while they're still talking about the plans they're going to have for the movements, the ones that they accomplished, the ones they didn't accomplish so well. I got a chance to see them really cry about something that didn't go well.
Did you ever remember them leaving and going to a demonstration and returning after that demonstration?
When they had several of the demonstrations, especially when they would get the children, go to the high schools, and the children would come from Park and Hayes, whatever. Okay, I did not go. I would go back home, but because we knew we were going to be leaving that night, we come back. And after that, one of those nights when all those children got put in jail and a couple of people got hurt or whatever, like I said, we come back. We get a chance to see him on the balcony, leaning against the balcony with a hand on. Said, man, that was just a little bit too much.
Yeah,
what we gonna do? Yeah. And the children was down there, and I actually saw him cry. Then I asked him to be a little kind of happy about something that did go through.
You had mentioned earlier something about the blue jean suits.
Yes. Okay, of course, we're youth. And you're 12, 11, 10. You're going to you got to find something to make it kind of comical because you're going through so many changes. So when they decided to wear those blue jean suits, we said, gosh, them some spiffy folks, but we're going to start calling them the Blue Jean Brigade because they were all dressed up as if they were in the military, And I mean, they had their stuff starched and everything. We said, oh my God, there go the Blue Jean Brigade. And we would even holler it out the window. Because like I said, you're youth then. We pretty much like youth now. You're going to do something that you don't have no business. So when we would see them, we would holler out the window, well, there go the Blue Jean Brigade, And I can remember the suits that they wore. And once when I went to the museum down in Atlanta, and I could remember that suit very well that Martin Luther King wore. And I used to really like to see, after I knew what they were doing, they started explaining, so I used to like to see them do it because it stood out, and it was like their uniform they were wearing to let them know this is what they were doing to represent that black men working for the black people, And it was just amazing.
I normally ask a question about the relationship between the Birmingham Police Department and the community.
Oh, wow. I would say the police department didn't like us at all. We were total outcasts. There were several days that we'd be just riding along in the car with my daddy, and they just stopped us, and I was wondering why and how. How did they even know it was our car? But I found out in later years they had marks on the cars. They knew what was going on. They would stop to get my daddy out the car, give him a ticket, take it back, give him a ticket, take it back, that kind of thing. And this was like sometime at night, during the day. We could even be going to the grocery store, and he might get stopped. So they were not nice at all.
Did they ever come to your house?
Yes. Okay, one night, Dad had been to a mass meeting, and the police department was out there then, you know, talking about how much noise was being or whatever. Anyway, he touched the collar of one of the policemen, and so they say he was an insubordinate officer. So they decided to come to the house and get him. So they come in about 11 of them or 10 of them. They knock on the door, knock the screen door down, and come on in. You know, like, this is my house, and come on in. My mother was at a, what we call mission meeting. You know, then you used to go from house to house. She was at a mission meeting, and they had to call her to come back up the hill. In that timing, they had took him out, thrown him up against the car. One of them stayed in and going to take my sister's zero candy bar, and she bit it. She bit the policeman. Yes, and he got up to kind of do his hand and hit her. He said, "Kill me first before you hit my child." And somebody had went and got my mom and brought him up the hill. But my sister, who is Helen Renee, went out fighting, thinking she could fight those 11. She went out there fighting. Did they arrest her? No, just kind of pushed her back. And my dad, that's when he said, "Take me, do whatever you want to with me, but don't hurt my children." We were having dinner. Dad had come home that night, and we were sitting down as a family, Mama, and we were having dinner, and they just burst right in. And at the same time, the neighbors said, "Oh, Lord, you finna get us killed." Oh, my God. What job was going to happen?
You were finna, who were they?
The people in our neighborhood, referring to Daddy. And at that point, a lot of the people in the neighborhood didn't want to babysit us. So that's why we had to be carried with him.
Oh, why did they not want to babysit you?
Because they thought probably the police, and just like with the bad ordeals with the policemen and everything, they thought probably they would come in the neighborhood and bother them too.
So they were afraid to even be associated with you.
Right. At points, yeah. Because some of them were very cooperative, and some of them were, I would say, very low down. You know, I hate to say that word, but I mean they didn't want to even hear about movement. We were outcasts. You know, there goes that Reverend Billups, and he's gonna get us in trouble. Yeah. You know.
What kind of relationship then did you have with children your age?
I had friends, and they liked me, but it was like still I was maturing a little bit more than them, and it was like I was talking about things that they weren't even thinking about, you know.
Were there any of the children in your neighborhood or in your school that were involved in the movement?
Yeah, you know, they whenever they would say about come on and let's go boycott or whatever, a lot of them would go. A lot of them would go back home. You know, it was finally time to go back home from school. And see, I saw that inside stuff. A lot of them did go. They went and they cooperated. But a lot of them, you know, they would, you know, go back, you know, make that be an excuse. That was one other time, the night that Daddy got beat up. And he was working at Hayes Aircraft at the time. And some kind of way, he wanted to take a shower. He said, this is how it started. So the showers were all filled in, you know, where the black people would go. So he went on over to the white side. And I think, you know, from my memory, they waited about a week later. But anyway, there was a neighbor that he rode with. And what they did, they picked him and the neighbor up. They blindfolded both of them, but they let him back off at his house.
Let the neighbor off
And this man lived like 5 doors down from us. And they took Daddy off, which is right where the mall, because I even get cringed when I go to Eastwood Mall now, when it was Woods then, and that's where he got beat up. Ku Klux Klan, a citizen council took him there and beat him up, chained him to a tree and beat him up. But what I looked at was this man was 5 doors down, knowing me and my mom and all of us in the house. He did not come and tell us anything.
So when did you find
Daddy crawled to the highway. This is what I was saying, crawled to the highway, and do you know, police was there to pick him up. And it was like, y'all through doing what y'all doing to this nigga, you know. Took him on to the hospital, and Reverend Smith followed from there, and he told Mama what had happened. He had been beat real bad at Clothesman. That was a shock to me. That stunned me, too, because when he finally came home, I just saw all these marks on him and everything, and he was still telling us, something like what Christ did, you know, just forgive them. They don't know what they were doing. And I was saying, how, you know, and I was in 5th grade then, and that really shocked me. I was angry at a point, a lot of my life, that I wanted to fight. If, like now, when I told you I've been in the military, if I had an M16, like I learned how to shoot then, I would have used it with no problem. Oh, yes, I probably would have used it, okay? I was just that angry because I didn't know how to tell anybody what I was feeling.
Well, what do you remember as a result of that, and then your returning to school? Did your teachers talk about it? did your
I had one
friends-
teacher that was very good to me, and the other school counselor named, I hope you mentioned her name, Mrs. Helen Heath.
This
And
is at
Hayes High School. And I would go in Miss Heath's office and just sit straight like this, and tears would just be rolling down my face. And that's her way of even listening to me. She understood. And then there were other people say, you know, other neighbors who really knew that, and they was involved, like Mrs. Radney, Reverend O.W., Ms. Radney. She kind of stuck behind us. And some of the neighbors that were, you know, other ministers, when we practically at times stayed over around Smith House with Miss Smith and people like that. Miss Hendricks, folks like that was out there. Miss Elsall, these were our nurturing people. So when you really wanted to ball up and cry, and me, I was always the loudest. And when I cry and I really get mad, I tear up things. So I would say these people are kind of able to calm me down, you know. But I could not control it. When I really got tore up, I was tore up. I mean, I was a young shouting girl at 10 and 12 years old. I always shouted or whatever, you know.
Always very emotional.
Yeah, and even then I learned how to hum Dr. Watts to keep me out of trouble. You know, I would do that.
To do what?
To get me out of trouble and stop from maybe cursing or whatever, saying something ugly. Because then, you know, they were really under you about these are older people and you're supposed to take your place. But then at a point where you were just angry, you said, I want to do something about this. I'm angry. I don't like what's going on, you know. And
now you and your siblings, you were never arrested.
No, I was never arrested, but we was always in and around it. Dad, we had the involvement, like when they said they were going to go to Selma or Coleman or something like that, we're in the car and we get the experience of them actually going in there and we standing there like nuts and they going in there, well, that's what I feel like, and they going to the back, getting sandwiches and stuff and hearing them calling, we don't serve niggas and no nigger children. Okay, I didn't get that involvement of going inside of a jail, being locked up and nothing like that. But I saw them doing this and saw the experience. I kind of like a hands-on that I can't explain.
Yeah, well,
you know.
You had an experience that others didn't have.
Yeah, I had yeah.
And you saw
it. I saw it slap somebody, talking about, you know, we don't serve nobody. Get your nigga butt out of here. And if this was not on tape, I'd say a couple other words they said, you know. And you can't talk, you're ignorant, you don't need none, we don't serve, we don't even want your money, you know. And I saw them do that. I mean, it was nothing for Dad and Ron Viv and them and Ron Smith to stop in some store and knew that black people were supposed to be there. And they go that we're going to get you a hamburger. Yeah. And then we're going to get this.
How did you feel about that? I
was frightened. I was frightened. I was really frightened because I was frightened for my dad.
Did you ever wish that they would not do that?
Sometimes, yes. Because I was frightened. I mean, a lot of times I was frightened. A lot of times I thought it was the boldest thing to do, but a lot of times I was frightened because they were cruel. When one part white, it's not no one part white person that comes after you. They bring the group. Well, one black man may stand there. That's what I learned. He might stand there and, you know, like accept so many stuff, but they got to bring that group with them to get what they want to have going. And even though I saw even the white women that used to be behind the counters and realized that they stayed no more than in the projects and they were even educated and trying to, you know, I saw that, you know, and that's what really got me, you know.
Tell me about the Easters and Christmases that you couldn't go to the stores.
Well, I must tell you, we will learn why Jesus was here because Daddy said it wasn't our birthday. And we weren't going to buy anything out of those stores because they were boycotting. So, you know how you see all the little programs, you know, like the dolls and this, that, and the other. And we might get something, but it was very much after Christmas at some other store. He frequented Atlantic Mills a lot, you know. Okay, and but we didn't get anything on that day and no Easter, forget it, you know, because that meant going and buying something and trading with people that did not want to trade with you. So, of course, you know, you've seen all the people going out with the little dresses on, which I loved the silk organza at that time, and the standout slips and everything, and the little flowers in the head. And we had on like, you're going to wear this, you know, and dress up in this. And it was like, gosh, I don't want to get up in some Isis speech in this dress, you know. And then my feet, I hate to put this in, I have bad feet. I am flat-footed. And it's like, you know, Parisians and possessors on the stores that sold those good shoes, you know, whatever. But no. We had to pick other stores because he wasn't going in that store. So guys used to be just walking behind me and say, oh, knock needed Charlotte and her 2 left feet. And I'd just be up the hall just crying. But I knew what was going on, but it was like I was a child then. I could not take that, you know.
That was an experience when you were in school.
Yes.
You had a project to do.
Yes, and getting ready for something. One of my teachers was a sewing teacher and home economics. She told me she was going to give me an F, and she knew what was going on. I mean, these teachers knew.
She knew that you were.
She knew Daddy was involved because my daddy was one of these parents that can't, you know, talking about parents don't go to PTO or whatever. Oh, he stayed at the school every other day. He was preaching about something about kids and the youth. Y'all need to come out of here and pay attention. I mean, he was at the school. Okay. All right. She knew that. And she told me my project was to make a jacket, dress coat, and a dress, you know, with the jacket and dress, whatever. And with down buttonholes and everything, which is very hard. So I said, I cannot get my material, what you want me to get from that place. My dad is going to have to get it from somewhere else. My aunt from out of town even offered to send me the material in the mail. She didn't want that. She wanted the kind that was right there at Bazit's. So I went down there and I got it anyway.
This
is school pressure. This is pressure
at a time when the boycott
right in the heat of the boycott. And Charlotte goes in there and gets linen material. I don't think I like linen, nothing today. For some reason, it bites me because I got a whooping. That evening, I got a whooping.
How did he find out that you had?
Because he saw the material and the tag from the store. And
how did he approach you?
Oh, I got a whooping. That's all I got to say. I got a whooping, all right? I mean, it was...
Did he talk with you?
Yeah, he cried. He cried real bad afterwards because I guess he was thinking, now that I'm grown now, he was thinking about all they were going through. And this woman made my child, you know, but he went to the school and my dad was a very bold person and he confronted her. Like I think a lot of parents need to do that. He confronted her, you know. And even to this day, even when my children was going to school, something I didn't understand, I learned from that. I go and find out, why did you do that? You know, you put a pressure on this child. And out of all that, I still really didn't make a good grade because she had something against her. She just didn't go along with the movement or nothing. She aggravated me. She told me I didn't know how to dress and all that. And then after that, my teeth were messed up at the same time. So she was one of them that just made me start doing things knowing that what was going on. You know?
You were affected by illness that you really didn't understand at that time.
Yes, now they have found I have lupus. And lupus is a connective tissue disease. Then I was having headaches, losing my hair, you know, bizarre attitude, just sick. And then I was we was in the sun at night, tired, you know. So that made me like moose. We didn't know, you know. We did not find out I actually had lupus until I got in the military. But when we looked back at the same symptoms, and then that really was, you know, I was getting sick. I get fevers, cold, constantly stayed in the women advisor, you know, at high school, having to be sick and brought back home. And Daddy used to have to leave from where he was and come get me and take me back home. I ran low blood, everything. You know, I was sick. But all of a sudden, I'd get well, you know. So, and that's how lupus is. So now, and it has crippled me, okay?
When did you go into the military?
I went in the military in 75.
And what branch?
Army.
In the Army, okay. What did you do in the military?
I was a clerk, which you do a little bit of everything as far as paperwork, what you call a morning clerk. You know, you keep it with all the records as far as in your company and battalion. At the same time, me being Miss Creative, I would always be singing in some kind of way. One of the officers heard me singing, and I got picked for that, to sing with the Army for about a year and a half. But I still continued. By Dad, I was teaching about motivation, doing something. Weeks was still like it was time. You didn't have to do that. I went down and got me another MOS, you know. So I was always constantly doing something. And that part of the Army I really much enjoyed because I got a chance to really perform in what you call in front of people of all nationalities. And to feel good about it, Dad had always taught us how to respect nationalities of people. Because, you know, in the movement, there was many nationalities there, you know, Black, white, Indian, Chicano. I mean, you know, they were there, you know, Oriental. And then I went to the Army and saw the same thing. and being able to perform and do that in front of them. But you know what? I was in the military. Every time they would play, we used to have to play the Star Spangled Banner, I'd break down and start crying. And the guys would ask me why. I say, every time I see y'all, and the way they even do you all now, I cannot forget those days I had behind. So one morning while in the military, I acted like I was in church. We were doing the Star Spangled Banner, and I decided to shout. So one man decided, he said, out of all my years in the military, I've never seen a woman get down on the floor in the middle of formation and shout. And, and I was shouting too. And I could really do a high C soprano and everything. And it was like, because I was so ignorant about the past and know what was going on until I just got involved, with being in the military and seeing these people and looking at them. And I said, Now I'm matching everything up. I see how they make rules overnight. I see how they do things and how they say you can do it and you can't. And then while I was in that choir, I remember one Sunday, my captain who was over me, he was from Czechoslovakia. Okay. And in the Army, everybody's prim and proper in church, and they just say, we're having church and we're going to talk about, you're going to make it like this. So I did Precious Lord, as if I was down here at New Pilgrim again. So when we were going out of the church, his wife had just come and she could not speak. And she said, I don't know, but God loved. And they said, wow, don't never let Charlotte sing or be over nothing because she's going to have the whole group, So
you didn't just have chapel when you
No, and everybody, they were trying to learn at that time how to integrate women with men. So I told them, you're going to have to do that. I said, that's what's important. You're going to have to let women be with men on these floors, and then you won't have all these problems or anything. So, because I had a lot of conflicts with whites. Yeah. Okay, real bad. And what I would do was, like I told you, to get out of trouble, they said, let Charlotte come down here and help us because she's going to start harming one of those Dr. Watts. And that comes from slavery. That is true.
What do you mean harming Dr. Watts?
A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, and our Father, I stretch my hand to thee, no other help I know. You do that, and a black person, they're going to move. Okay. They're not going to ask you anything. I never got an Article 15 or whatever. And if a black guy got in trouble, I'd knock on his door and whisper to him, please don't do that. I even not really lie for anybody, but there was once where a black guy was going to get in trouble for this white girl said he had took her money. And I said, she gave it to you, you took it. But why did you take it? But at the same time, I went and I stood up for him and I knew how to do it from my experiences in the past. I said, she gave it to him and she took it. It wasn't a prayer, she gave it to him. He does not need to get an Article 15. So they would always say, whatever goes on, call Charlotte Billups, Charlotte Jernigan, she'll help you out because she's going to start humming one of those Dr. Watts and they're going to leave all us alone. So that was some of the experiences I had in the military.
Let me back up just a bit. 63 in Birmingham was sort of the highlight of the movement with the demonstrations and then finally with the bombing of 16th Street Baptist Church. Do you remember?
Yes, I remember that. We were home that Sunday. Thank God we didn't go anywhere with Daddy. And when they said he had bombed the church, he went immediately down there. That was a sad, drop feeling. I felt as though there was a dark, dark, dark shadow as far as a child at 13 now over Birmingham, and it wasn't going to move. That hurt me too. That was about the hardest thing I've heard of in my life. And then to know these people who were involved, and that was their child, And
did you know the children?
I didn't know them per se, close, but you probably had seen them or talked to them, but no, not close. But I knew Dad and Chris McNair were kind of close there because he was always then doing photography work. And what got me about that, like I told you once before, when they brought those children to the hospital for identification, they went up there and they got Mama immediately and said, you will not. Your nigger husband is downstairs and you ain't going down there. And this is like, how did they know who she was? You mean that's why I try to tell people, you got to read between the lines. Never think you can get by with anything. These folks know you sometimes when you went to the bathroom. So don't play with it. You know, I tell people that now when they say, I got it made, I got it made. When they want you off that job that you think you got a telephone, a gas lamp, you know, you really executive, when they want you off, they're going to get you. They're already writing everything down. I mean, I learned that from that, you know, because they didn't know exactly. I thought who Mama was, but they went. She said they immediately came up there and told her, don't you go down there. Your nigger husband. And this is on a professional job. This is the University of Alabama.
Sure.
Okay.
What's your most memorable remembrance of the movement?
The most memorable thing, say where it just sticks in my head.
Yeah.
Both times, you know, when my daddy got beat, slammed up against the car. You know, when he got beat up and had to come home. And
wait a minute, I slammed up against the car.
You know, when I told you they came to the house and got him, that really, yeah. Okay, and being at that motel and sitting there and getting out of the car, being told not to get out the car. It was like it was in jail. It was a horrible feeling, you know. So
sitting in the car waiting for your dad who's
inside. And seeing things, you know.
Trying to prepare for the movement. And he's trying to liberate black people, but by the same token, it appeared from your perspective that you were imprisoned as a result of it.
Right. And I was told even then, like, you're in charge. And that meant if anything went wrong, I kind of maybe got fussed at, you know. But now I know he didn't mean it. Nobody else meant it, but I got fussed at. And the most memorable time, because me being 13, I used to like to see the Freedom Riders come in, because these were college students. And we 13 and 14 and 10 years old, we're looking out there at the people passing by, and they would come up to the car and talk to us, bring us something from out of the kitchen, you know, whatever. And there was a lot of races then, you know. And the most memorable time is knowing that this was so important, is meeting all those ministers that have reached that plateau and made a contribution back. Just say, as Martin Luther King, Reverend Shuttlesworth, Reverend Smith, Reverend
N.H. Smith.
Yes, and the Reverend Woods. I mean, I saw them as young men, and I've had a chance to see them get old. And for some reason, when I look at them, they kind of still like that person. They still like those people that we had to kind of mind, you know. And to see, I got a chance to see that strong black man from looking at that. I mean, I saw them up and down. I saw them playing out something and really work it, because I could see them working, and then they go out there the next day and they would really do it, you know. And it's kind of comical now, but one of the funniest things is when my cousin decided to fight outside of the car. We didn't want to sit in the car that long, and so we decided to come on the outer side of the car, and she shook the car. We had a Ford there, and she shook the car, and Martin Luther King was coming down and said, first, who we called Paul Dudley Wall, who was tall, he came down first and said, aren't you all Billups children? Aren't you all supposed to be in that car? You know, we said, no, we ain't getting in this car. I mean, we were really acting up. We ain't getting in this car. Not tonight. It's too hot. We tired, you know, like that. So he said, okay, I guess I have to go get him, you know. And then after that, Reverend Smith comes down, and he tries to stop us. And then here comes Martin Luther King. And if that floor or that ground could have opened up, because, you know, he was a soft-speaking but yet stern person. What's wrong with you, young ladies? How are you all doing tonight? And we were sitting there like, gosh, you know, what we're supposed to do next, you know, because we were so embarrassed. He said, I think I'm going to go up there and get Billups and tell him he needs to come down and attend to you all. You all are kind of tired. So he had him to go in and get us some ice cream. And after that, it was a good break, and he sat there and talked to us. And this wasn't like one night. This was every night almost. And I'm sitting there, and I see the people, you know, when they're really excited, say, really, you got a chance, you know, they were saying, and then I go to schools, and one little girl said, let me touch your hand, the hand that touched Martin Luther King. And it was like, I told them they were just ordinary men. They didn't want no praise. All they were about was getting something done for their people, you know. And that's pretty much what they told us, you know. But that experience really sticks with me, and I get tickled how we just got embarrassed by this man, you know. He didn't embarrass us. He thought it was kind of funny. And in return, I liked it those times, which I miss. kind of not being in the room for no highlights, but because you understood that world and I like to hear what's going on and I like to keep up. And when Daddy got killed and everything in Chicago, like that ended and it was a bad sadness because we got a chance to, Daddy exposed us to a lot. We got a chance to meet people and eat with them, go to their homes and see people in different phases. I've seen people where they started out with nothing who were in the movement and they're doing well now, you know. And
let me ask you just about, you were never arrested, but when the buses were finally desegregated.
Oh, yes.
You did ride the buses. Can you tell me anything about it?
Now, that's when I did my thing on the bus. When they were getting ready, while the buses were being boycotted, they would make you pay in front and walk around to the side. So me and I had another cousin.
They'll make you pay in the front
and walk around to the side
to get on the bus.
Yes. Even for, we had bus, you know, Hayes used to give what they call these bus tokens, bus card. So this particular day, we get on where Sloss Furnace is now, and I think, we get on Sloss Furnace, we get to Woodlawn, all right? We fighting on the bus because we didn't want to go around to the back, because when we got back there, you know, I was bowling, you know, I go up and hit folks and come on back, because they didn't know these silly white people would be sitting up in the front, standing and squash, trying to keep them sitting down with people. I didn't want you up there, and we used to do some silly stuff. We even moved the signs around a couple of times, okay? But at the same time, you know, we hit and fight. And then there would be people on the bus, black people saying, I'm going to tell your dad on you.
Who would you hit and fight? Who would you?
White people, the white kids. Yeah, because they was on there, you know, getting ready to go home, too. Sometimes they had to catch that bus.
So they would be sitting in front of the board.
And not you know, just, you know, because they made us go in because we supposed to be in the back. And they were supposed to be in the back. I mean, we were supposed to be in the back, and he kind of said, wasn't going to let us on at the front because all the white people standing at the back. So one day, this is when we was going down, because I told you we used to have to stay with my grandmother sometimes when it was just necessary that we, you know, unless we could not go with Daddy. So we got on what you call 17 Irondale. And, you know, then they had the bus, what's that little thing, you know, when you're changing one side of town to the transfer. Okay. Yes. Me and my cousin, which is a guy, and the young lady cousin, we had got on. We told them we weren't going to pay our money and go around to the back. So we got in the front. So I was good and strong then. I bumped and I pushed, knocked folks down. I even tied a white girl hair up on, you know, the thing you hold on. I tied her hair onto the thing and dared her to move. And I tied it tight and I said, don't you say not one word. That's going to kick you. You know what I mean? I was just asking, this is the time to take out my anger.
This is Reverend Billups' daughter.
Yes, okay. So we get on the bus and, you know, and so we getting on this way anyway. The bus man just fussing at us. So one day he decided to get us. Where's your transfer? And I want your bus card. I want your DAMN bus card. Me and my cousin tore up the bus card and we ate it and swallowed it. Right between where they call like the gap between Gate City and going into Arundel. I know you've seen it. It's where the train track is. You know, Lawson Field is over from there now. Well, right there is the changeover from Birmingham and we had to go, so we followed our bus. Well, that's all right. I'll never let you off the bus. So this man decides to ride us all over by Eastwood Mall and back again. When we got back round to Arundel again, I said, man, I'm finna mold your head right here in this thing of old and new, you know. I'm gonna call the police. I said, you might as well call me. What more can you do to me? So my cousin proceeded to kind of take his head and stick it out the window.
The bus driver.
And we left him there.
Or his head, because he was embarrassed.
No, we put it there. He put it there. My cousin put it there. Yeah. And he left it there. And then when they integrated the buses, they decided they were going to get on the bus and we could get on the normal way, but they didn't want to sit by you. So the white kids, especially from Woodlawn, they decided that, you know, Woodlawn was all white, and they put their books down, you know, in the seat. And I just like to shove them off to the floor. You can't sit here, the book can't sit here. I would take my leg and put it up on the thing. And I said, you know you better not put it on my leg. No way. And then even then I started hollering, singing Dr. Watts. Because I always like to sing it with me. Anyway, another young lady had to do her the same way. She decided, she called me a bitch, you know, and you all don't need no rights, no way. And she was coming from, I'm not Lauren Gacy or none of, but she was coming from there. Her parents on the same level as everybody else. You all don't need anything. You all don't even take baths or nothing like that. I said, well, I tell you what, since we don't take baths, I'm going to show you that you're supposed to take a bath in the shower. And I tied her hair up. I loved Flu with that long hair. I tied her hair up on that. You know the things you hold on to? I tied her hair up on there. And some years back, you know, when they used to have the football games and the TB games. Okay, now that was a sad experience for me. I was a little girl then. I think I was about 8 or 9.
At Rickwood Field?
Yeah. And there was nowhere to sit on the bus. I was so tired. And I failed getting on the bus, and Daddy set me down. He moved the sign. The man came back there and slapped him.
What was his response?
He slapped him back and moved. He said, my child's sitting here, and she is going to sit down. Said she's hurt herself, she's going to sit down, so you might as well go and beat me right here. Oh, boy, that really got me.
So what you were doing then, when you got in high school, you were remembering those kinds of experiences.
A lot of the stuff that I was seeing them do, like going to those places outside, you know, and around Birmingham, you know, going, getting lunches and stuff like that. And I remember that. And just seeing my daddy go talk about, you know, he would try to get, you know, you go into regular business and stuff, and they knew them. And they would call them all sorts of names. And it's like, I don't know, I used to, when I got in the military a little bit and got a chance to really learn how to shoot, and I said, Lord, please forgive me. But you know what I used to learn? I shot those 425-meter targets. Thinking about the 60s. And my drill sergeant said, how did you do that? Because, you know, they pop up for it. And all I could think about was when they was beating up people. But I learned, out of all of that, I still learned how to love. I started learning how to balance out my anger.
Now, your family moved from Birmingham to Chicago during the time that Dr. King was marching.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me just a bit about that?
Yeah, when they went out to Cicero, they hurt them up real bad.
Now, he had moved to Chicago.
Yeah.
Had he moved to Chicago specifically
for that?
To get involved and sort of lay the groundwork for Dr. King?
Right. They moved. Him and others were the first ones to move there.
Then eventually Dr. King would come and they would have the march through Cicero.
And all those
the Chicago movement would take place. The Operation Breadbasket. But he had been one that laid foundation.
Him and others,
Jesse Jackson.
Right. And that's when I met him one time, I think in Birmingham. I think he came. But that was when I really got to meet him, was when I got to Chicago. And I realized then he was just 27 years old.
Young man.
Okay, and that really gets me too, but that's when I got a chance to meet another set of people that, and these people were a little bit younger than them, and they were dogmatic too. So Daddy was up here, and what I did, I always told me we needed a rest. So I didn't move completely to Chicago with the family. I lived in Cleveland for a little while and went to school, and then I later on joined them. And then we still got involved. I got involved with Fellowship Baptist Church and everything with Reverend Evans and everybody, just like, being here at home at New Pilgrim. So that became another big home setting for us, and movement going on again. It's just I'm a little older and can see things a little bit clearer. But we attended then Operation Breadbasket every Saturday morning. But then it was because we kind of wanted to, okay? That was a good history information when we realized what was going on. So that was like a joy to go there, even though it was still dangerous.
Were you in Chicago doing the Cicero March?
Yeah, I was there. I always commuted back and forth sometimes, so I was there. And Daddy came home all swelled up, everything. And that's when Martin Luther King got hurt, too. Matter of fact, they did them real bad. And what hurt me about that, this supposed to be in Chicago, and I was able to come back to Birmingham and tell them they had been worse than we are. I said, they're not even allowed on certain parts of the town. And then I realized people were right there in Chicago that had never even been to the beach. They was living right there in that ghetto. So that was a down break for me, They hadn't even attended some of the best schools there. They were in the ghetto, and you know about welfare and hunger. It was horrible than what it was here in Birmingham.
Your father, though, was very active in Chicago.
Yes, he was very active. And I got a chance to, Black Panther movement, Disciples, all those kids. And they talk about gangs now. We saw them then. Right. Okay?
Well, your father, though, was killed.
In Chicago. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me anything about that?
All we know, they found him, and as far as I know, it was on the south side, Hyde Park. Mm-hmm. We do not know what happened, but I do know when the movement started quieting down and people start reaching out for them, he got a job with National Tea Company. Mm-hmm. And remember now, Daddy only had a degree from Booker T, but he was always, doing something, and he wound up with one of the top jobs. Mm-hmm. And even then, he first started off in personnel. He started going around in these ghettos and stuff and hiring people, teaching them how to take the tests and everything. Okay, and then after that, he moved on up. But there were a couple of people there that come to me, you moving too fast. Even this is in Chicago now, and, you still a nigga, And they were saying, we don't know how you getting this far, and you got a bullshit degree, So I'm like, just talking, we got a chance to see that. But anyway, they found him dead, and they worked with it for a while, and then they didn't work with it anymore.
Never found out what happened. Mm-mm. How would you evaluate the movement? What benefits do you think were realized by you, your family, and the community as a result of the efforts that your father was making?
You mean, what do I feel now? Was it worth it? Yes. Did it accomplish anything? Yes, definitely. I look at things as the work was done, the foundation was laid, it was worked for. It's almost like when somebody gives you the book, they wrote it for you, they put it there in front of you, but you got to open it up, okay? So it's like, here it is. Just like when the slaves did it, they went through their part, somebody else went through their part, and these people went through their part. Now you take the book and open it. But I look at it as even some of the people, not mainstream, in the movement, some of the people not in the movement, but kind of, when they saw everything was all right, just went home and sat down. Figured out, well, we ain't got to go no further. So that made people kind of scatter themselves and start doing things like I've got it made, and not keep working with the program and looking for somebody to work with it. And it's already been laid. Any young man, any young woman could get up and take over from where it left us. So it did benefit. We are in school, we are studying, but we are taking some people for a different thing, because now those same strong men, some strong men who is even stronger, I feel, if they work with it now, can get out here, they can clean up these neighborhoods. That's not hard to do. If you clean some white people up, you can clean these kids up. All they want to do is talk to, listen to them. And you tell them, people are not telling them they got their jobs and they didn't tell them how it happened. Because I've talked to children and they don't know nothing about what went on, some of them. I know I've always given my children step by step. And if my daughter was here now, she would tell you. And the result of it as far as Daddy's thing and his immediate family, my daughter attends University of Alabama. She's traveled abroad and studied. She writes well, and very out there. She's going to try anything. She's dogmatic, okay? She been in the reserves. She wants to do it, okay? She's headstrong. My son, he's headstrong. They're both in school. And one most important thing, my children know how to read and write. And I mean read and write with intelligence. They know how to deal with people. If my son or my daughter were here, I'm talking about the benefits from that, they would be able to hold you the same interview and talk to you. And I think that is worth more than, like when Daddy said how many went through, but when he see his own grandchildren made it. He has 2 more in North Carolina, Kyra and Robert. And Robert is a straight A student in North Carolina, where we know that's still white folks feel, and he's roughing it. My little niece gets in, they try everything. From cello to talking, dancing, studying. They are not afraid to get on a bus, a train, an airplane by themselves and go. So in result, I see my daddy, his dream really being fulfilled, and because they're out there. His 4 grandchildren, if he was back and he could see them, I always tell my mom, all 5 of them would always be in trouble, because they know how to point their finger and say, I'm going to do it and I'm going to be in it. So that result makes me feel good, you know. The other result, I'm glad even though I have my illness with lupus, I cannot go and meet every rally meeting or whatever now. I would love to get involved, but what I do is tutor. And my tutoring is called motivation. I tell you to bring your child to my house. I cannot go up the stairs. I attend Sardis now, and when we have tutoring, you have to go up some stairs at the Family Life Center. I cannot make it up those stairs. The children come to the house. I have opened my house up to that. They come there, I teach them a little artwork. I make them stand in the mirror and talk to themselves and say, I'm somebody, in their name. I teach them how to read, you know, and I motivate them that, yes, you're going to get your biology, and yes, you're going to get that history. Because if you don't, you're wasting airtime. I told them they're wasting airtime here on earth.
You obviously, you've experienced an awful lot. Mm-hmm. There were times when you sat in the car and you were upset with your father. There were times when you were riding with your father and Reverend Smith and others, and you saw them ostracized. Mm-hmm. You saw your father slapped on the bus. You saw your father beaten. Mm-hmm. If you had the power and you could go back, what would you change?
Oh, wow. I could not change, I wouldn't change the way they tried to conquer what they were conquering. I would not tell my daddy, don't do it, okay? I tell him, keep on. You know, no way I would say, I'd rather be at home with my dolls and my paper dolls and going out with this little guy down the street or having the little parties everybody was at. No, I am so glad that God let me have that experience. I didn't say man, I said God let me have that experience to see that, because I would not be the person that I am today. And no, I wouldn't change anything, because I got a chance to see life as it is.
Well, finally, this has been a great afternoon. I've learned so much. But is there anything else you'd like to add that we've not dealt with that was associated with the movement?
First, I would like to add that, yes, I'm glad I was able to contribute something to the museum and hope even further things. I hope I'll be able to be called upon when they have groups there, and I can come down and talk to the children. I love talking to children. I hope I can continue to be invited to schools to give one-on-one talks like I've done. I'm doing that now, too, with black and white kids. There was one I did, and the little white guy came up to me, and he hugged, and he said he was not intending to be in the group. I said, you will not. You're going to come be right here with me. I'm going to have the kings on each side, black and white, right? At the end, that poor child wanted to take me to the cafeteria and sit me down. He treated me like I was a queen. He said, lady, I ain't never seen no lady like you before. Because I was hugging him. I told him I didn't care if they didn't have on deodorant that day. We were all going to hug, and I make them hold hands and clench each other after my presentations. And I would like to keep that up. The other thing, people who have the time and the knowledge, I want them to come back out. And I didn't tell you to conquer the world, but contribute what you can and make sure it's from your heart. There's still a lot of hurting people out there. There's a lot of things people do not understand what's happening. And it's not that I feel we're going to lose it. It's just going to turn into something that we don't understand. And I would always, I don't care what happens to me. I've had 2 children, and I've been married. I had maybe one, and I wasn't married, but that did not make me sit down and say, I can't stand that black man. No. And that black woman. I've written a poem, and I'm getting ready to try to get a copy called Black Man Strapped to Your Back. And what I'm saying in there, he's the king. He can do some stuff. He gets bitter. He acts a fool. He might even be abusive. This can be your brother. This can be your son, your father, your uncle. But he's strapped to your back, the black woman's back. Because when a black woman can look in a black man's eyes, and I've learned how to do that, he can be executive, street cleaner, whatever. And you can look in his eyes, and you can tell way back that way he's still kind of hurting. And don't even have to say nothing. You have eye contact with him, and he might come and lay his head in your lap and everything. Don't have to say nothing. because you're going to work as much as you can. This is what I saw the black women doing now, during the movement. You're going to work as much as you can to still get him up that morning. That's how my daddy made it and others. And put that suit back on, or that blue jean suit back on, and say, I'm out there again. Because I can come back to who? You know, the black woman. So I made a performance called A Black Man Strapped to My Back. Not saying he's weak. I'm talking about carrying him in this love and understanding way. Until the day I die, I will never, all during the military, I really learned it, I will never put down a black man. Never, ever. No matter if he in that prison over here doing this, you know, because all of us do things when we got no business, and it hurts when they're doing it, you know. But I will never, and I hope I never have to live that down, because that was something I learned. Even when I paint or whatever, I still draw groupings of men. And I mean black men making it. He can do some stuff. And I wish somebody could really point that out to him. I feel like a black man can go out there if he needed a house. If he could go to the woods and chop down him some trees he's not drinking, smoking, or whatever, he'll build his family somewhere to live. Because I saw them make something out of nothing. And I saw that, and I'm glad I had that experience. And I hope that I can always push it on with my son, anybody. So and when the garbage man comes by, I ask him, do you want some ice water? And then I can see somebody working a telephone company. How you doing? The same, you know. And I thank God for that personality and the personality that he put me in, and regularly teach me how to be like that. Even though I'm crippled, I am in constant pain every day. I was not this size. I was a small person, but I'm still learning how to love.
Yeah, you are obviously a treasure.
Yes.
The Institute is serving as a repository for any items that you may have. If you have, for instance, your father may have papers that he left, anything like that. If you have things of that nature, we very much appreciate you getting in touch with us.
Well, I've already donated some pictures, and a couple of pictures with them in groups like I think that's him and others, Martin Luther King and Reverend Billups, and also some pictures of him when they were doing marches right here in Birmingham and other places. And we had a bad fire before the Institute opened, and we had a lot of memorabilia. So it's like what we're getting now is what we had to scrape up, and how I got some of those articles and things. One aunt in Cleveland, Ohio, kept a lot of articles, and she sent them to us. Now at home, I'm trying to write out with something like now. It's painful when you write these things out. You got to stop and start. Hope one day to come out with a book. Hope one day for one of my paintings or several of my paintings to be hung there in the Institute, telling of my story. I'm doing one now with the blue jean suits, you know, on some canvas. And it's real blue jean material. And I hope one day those can be, which I know it's going to be appreciated, because these children will get a chance to see what really happened, you know. So, yes.
Mrs. Charlotte Billups Jernigan,
yes,
thank you very much.
I really appreciated this, and I praise God for this opportunity.
Sweet in the morning.